The Florida governor, Ron DeSantis, has been talking in New Hampshire in the last hour about China, foreign policy and the US economy. He took quite an aggressive swipe at China, railed against what he described as corporate bailouts and said he would rein in the Federal Reserve in an economic policy speech. Mr. DeSantis has signed a series of bills in his home state that will prevent the Chinese from buying land. He's banned universities from accepting funding from China, and TikTok has been removed from all state-issued devices. But critics say the Florida governor, who ascribes to many of the Trump policies, is failing to differentiate himself from the former president. A new poll out today shows Trump is crushing DeSantis and his other Republican rivals, and across nearly every category and region, with no sign the criminal indictments he's facing are having any effect. This poll from the New York Times asked Republicans if they had to vote today for a candidate. Trump comes in at 54%, DeSantis at 17%. So, was he able to change some minds today in New Hampshire?
They said if you granted China special trading status and put them in the World Trade Organization, that China would become more democratic, that it would guard against forced transfers of technology, that you wouldn't have a mass relocation of American manufacturing to China, and that we would be safeguarded against surges of Chinese imports. What actually happened over these past 25 years? China has become more authoritarian, more powerful, and more ambitious. We've seen our relationship marred by the theft of our intellectual property, trade dumping, currency manipulation, and espionage. Our industrial base here in the United States has hollowed out. We've developed a dangerous dependence on Chinese supply chains, and our companies have been exposed to a hostile security apparatus.
Well, let's speak to the pollster and political strategist Ben Telchin, who is with us. Ben, thank you for coming on the programme. I listened to that, and it is a more restrained approach to China in the sort of MAGA world than the one you might hear from Donald Trump, but it sounds very similar. And I'm wondering where Ron DeSantis is going to find some differentiation, if he's going to make up that ground.
Well, he's got a big hole to fill, to dig himself out of. The recent poll that you noted today, he's trailing by 37 points, and no candidate in any modern-day presidential campaign has come back for more than 20 points at this stage of the race. So he's got a big hole to climb out.
With that in mind, then, why is he reticent to criticise Donald Trump's legal problems?
Well, it's a tough position to be in. Any Republican who's gone after Donald Trump is attacked, and Donald Trump has driven up their negatives, unfavorability ratings. So it's a tough spot to be in, to go after the former president, because Trump is so effective at attacking people, including fellow Republicans. So if you start attacking Trump, he'll attack you back, and he tends to be very good at attacking.
So I looked at this poll today. There's not a single one of the 319 respondents in the poll who identify themselves in the MAGA category, Make America Great Again. Not one of them said he committed a serious federal crime. So they're not going anywhere, even if he is imprisoned. The only part of that Republican electorate that Ron DeSantis could possibly capture is the 19% who say they won't vote for Donald Trump at all. How does he capture them?
Well, he's got those voters, and then there's some voters in the middle who aren't thrilled with Trump, but are open to voting for someone else and waiting for someone better to come along. And as of this point, Ron DeSantis hasn't shown that he's the better alternative, but this speech today was an attempt to try to turn things around and show that he can be at least as good as Trump on China and foreign policy, while avoiding the legal problems that Donald Trump has. So it's still a tough, really steep hill to climb, but it's an attempt for Ron DeSantis to try to turn things around in his campaign.
I've watched Donald Trump stumping. He's very good at it, and he's actually, I mean, if you ignore some of the things that he says, which wouldn't add up to much scrutiny, he is quite warm with the crowd. He works the crowd. He's quite personable, and I wonder if Ron DeSantis has that. Is he a retail politician?
He doesn't seem to be. I mean, look back early this year in January, Ron DeSantis was doing much better in the polling. And then as he's launched his campaign and actually been on the campaign trail, he's lost ground. So I think there is something to, on paper, he looks really strong and looked like to be a very potentially strong competitor against Donald Trump. But when it comes to day-to-day campaigning, meeting with real people, DeSantis has really struggled in that, and the polling is showing that.
We're 6 months, just under 6 months from the first caucus in Iowa, but we're only a month away from the first debate. And I look at that poll, which we've just been putting on the screen, and I'm wondering why Donald Trump would even take part. Why does he need to go anywhere near a television debate?
Well, after I saw that poll today, I was thinking he's not going to debate. He's not going to participate in that debate. So, and he's been successful in the past of avoiding debates. So at this point, I don't see why he would participate in that debate. And then it gives an opportunity for DeSantis or someone else to kind of grab the limelight and really make an impression on voters. But it seems at this point that everyone's fighting to be the vice president.
A lot of campaigning and polling comes down to money. Cash is king when you're in a presidential race. We hear today that Donald Trump spent $40 million so far defending himself against the various indictments that he's facing. Is that likely to weigh on the second part of this presidential race when he's tied up in litigation and he's having to fend off many of the attacks that he's facing?
Donald Trump seems to defy political laws and the laws of political gravity. And so I think he has a unique way of getting earned media attention that, basically in place of TV ads or paying for communicating to voters. And his legal problems don't seem to be weighing down with Republican primary voters. So, look, it's definitely going to drain his finances for sure. And it has been. It hasn't impacted him yet in the Republican presidential primary. It could affect him in the general election, assuming Trump's the nominee. But the challenge is somebody has to have money to communicate a message and attack Donald Trump on television and communicate to voters in some other way. And Ron DeSantis raised a lot of money, but spent a lot, and he's had to lay off staff. So right now, his campaign's struggling. Other candidates haven't raised nearly that much money. So it could impact Trump down the road, but it doesn't seem to be impacting him just yet.
Do you see, I'm sure that the Democrats would like Donald Trump to be the candidate, but do you see any danger for them in this poll?
Look, I mean, Donald Trump won before when no one thought he could win. And I think Democrats need to make sure they don't underestimate him again. And he's very good at attacking people. So if he's the nominee, he's going to go up against Biden. He's going to attack President Biden every day. And he's a handful. And, the way the American system works, the Electoral College, you have to win states that are more conservative. And so I still think Trump has a chance of winning next November. And the Biden campaign needs to take him very seriously and run very hard and run a very disciplined campaign to beat him.
Yeah, I'm sure they'll take it more seriously than they did in 2016, that's for sure. Ben, lovely to see you. Thank you for coming on the programme.